When you finally have a trading strategy that you know works, it's crucial that you build a mindset that's bulletproof and allows you to consistently execute this strategy. Without that, you're not going to be able to have consistent profitability, and you're going to be impacted by the market. You're going to be run by the market as opposed to sticking to a plan that works. So what I'm going to cover in this YouTube video is my theories and my topics and my tools on how you can bulletproof your trading mindset in order to stick to your trading plan and as a result get consistent profitability and have a foundation that allows you to scale significantly off. Because you may be okay right now with your mindset trading whatever capital you're trading now, but let's imagine we 10x that capital or 100x that capital, which is very, very easy to do with prop firms and access to private investment nowadays. And you want to ask yourself, is the current mindset that you have and the processes and the tools that you've established with your mindset, are those enough when you 10x or 100x your capital? And for most traders, the answer is going to be no. So you need to take on board what I'm going to share in this video, implement the proven principles to help you bulletproof your mindset so that you can get consistent profitability and scale significantly. So let's get into it. Now, your current brain, the way it's set up and programmed, is primarily for survival and survival from threats. And the brain each and every single one of us carries day to day in our mind has been evolved and developed over time. From an anthropological standpoint, our ancestors thousands of years ago, what they were focused on doing day to day was surviving. And whenever they saw a threat in front of them, they had to have some sort of hardwired response which would kickstart a fight or flight response, a sympathetic fight or flight response throughout their body, and put them in a state that allowed them to either fight the threat if they perceived themselves strong enough, or flight the threat, run away if they didn't perceive themselves strong enough. And this same brain, through evolution, we have that same hardwired response within us because human nature never gets rid of old things. It just builds new layers on top of. So we have that same hardwired threat survival response within us. And it's necessary if we're about to get hit by a car or we're about to get robbed or there's a life-threatening situation, then we all feel that sympathetic flight or fight response kick in where the cortisol and adrenaline goes throughout our body and we feel primed to react in that moment. And it's necessary in those situations. But how often are we in those situations? How often are we truly in a life-threatening situation? And when we're sitting in our air-conditioned apartment or house at the markets using proper risk management, then in that position and in that situation, the likelihood of a life-threatening situation is almost zero. So we as human beings have to learn to manage that survival response, that animalistic survival response of the amygdala, and we have to learn to put our more advanced parts of our brain in charge. Because as we've developed as human beings, we've gone away from this need to just survive, and we've gone to this desire to self-actualize and to have this state of thrival. And that's because for most people, the society we live in has already taken care of those basic needs. Food, shelter, water, survival, day-to-day security, those are all taken care of. So now we have permission to act from the higher parts of our brains and focus on thriving and identifying a process and sticking to that process and being analytical and working through and self-actualizing. So the first understanding I want to pass on is that your brain is a threat survival response. It's very good at surviving from threats. However, it's also very good at self-actualizing if you know how to quiet down that amygdala and that threat survival part of your brain. Now, what your brain typically does is it interprets and labels information. And we have trillions of experiences. And what happens is we take this experience in and we label it, depending on whether it supports or challenges what's of most importance to us at that point in time, we label that event good or bad. And that event gets logged in the subconscious mind as either an infatuation or a resentment. You can see that by the yellow part on this diagram. So we have an event, if it's perceived as good by us because it supports our priorities, our values in that moment, we label it good. We log it as an infatuation in the subconscious mind. If an event challenges our values, our priorities at that point in time, we label it as bad and we log it in the subconscious mind as a resentful or a negative experience. Then our brain is designed, when we then go through life, go through our experience, to seek after whatever we've labeled good and logged in our subconscious mind and we're infatuated with. And we also learn to avoid whatever we've logged in our subconscious mind as resentful and a painful experience. And a great analogy for this is through your dating life, you tend to have certain experiences with certain individuals, and maybe it's certain looks that you associate pleasure to, or certain characteristics with an individual that you associate pleasure to. And then when you're going through your dating journey, you're seeking out those certain characteristics that you have a positive association to. And so too, maybe there are certain looks or certain features or certain characteristics that you didn't really like in an individual, and they get logged in your subconscious mind. And then when you're going through your dating experience, if you see those characteristics in someone else, or they resemble those characteristics, you have an avoidance of that. So when information gets logged in the subconscious mind as either good or bad, then consciously or unconsciously, we're seeking those things we've labeled good, and we're trying to avoid those things we've labeled bad. And this is where I wrote down the mirror here. So the past mirrors forward into the future. Whatever we think is good and logged and interpreted as good and logged in the subconscious mind, we're going to have a fantasy of and want to seek after. Whatever we've logged as bad in the subconscious mind, we're going to have a fear of and we're going to try to avoid. Okay? So our brain interprets and labels information, logs it in the subconscious mind. It is then designed to seek after that which it likes and try and avoid that which it doesn't. That's the animal mind. That's the survival part of our mind. Now, there is also a higher level to this. There's a way we can transcend this animal mind. And if we have a look at the actual physical makeup of the brain, the part that's responsible for the animal part of the mind is the amygdala, the emotional part of the brain. That's the survival that sees a threat and that reacts to the threat. We also have more advanced parts of the brain in the frontal lobe, the prefrontal cortex, which is the higher functioning. And if we learn to quiet down the amygdala, what we've seen is that the brain literally, or the body, reallocates its resources, the blood, glucose, and oxygen. It goes from the amygdala because it's now quiet down, and it stimulates the prefrontal cortex and it activates the prefrontal cortex. And now all of a sudden you have a higher functioning. And I'm convinced that every single individual, especially every trader, would have experienced living from the amygdala, where you tend to seek after those immediate gratifying hits like sugar or gambling or alcohol or sex or whatever it may be, those, whatever you perceive as being a feel-good chemical or a feel-good experience. And you also have those times where you just feel zen and you don't feel like seeking after or avoiding things. You just feel present and you feel grateful and you feel like you've transcended those needs. You're not even hungry. You don't have a desire to consume anything or anything like that. You just feel zen. So individuals, I'm convinced, have experienced both when their prefrontal cortex have been more activated and the amygdala has been more activated. And you tend to have the prefrontal cortex activated after you do a meditation, or you do some sort of mindset balancing, or you maybe experience something that's very inspiring, a piece of music or a movie, or you're doing a piece of deep work that you're really inspired to do and you feel just very in the zone. You tend to have the prefrontal cortex more activated. And so too, when you maybe didn't get a great sleep, or you're in traffic and you're road raged, or you just had a horrible argument, or you've had your expectations not met, you tend to have that amygdala fired up and you're red hot and you're reactive. So I'm convinced individuals have experienced both the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala. And so too, I'm convinced that traders have traded with both the amygdala activated and the prefrontal cortex activated. You sometimes have those trading days where you just feel so in flow and you feel tapped into the market. And when the market presents an opportunity, you execute because it aligns with your plan. And you know that set up so well. And you're present with the market. Your entry point is perfect because you were listening to the market. You weren't trying to capture something that wasn't there yet. And you managed it perfectly because you're listening to the market. You know what your processes are. And that's when you're trading from the prefrontal cortex and you feel in flow and it feels effortless. And you've also had those trading days where you're trading from the amygdala and maybe you've taken a loss initially and you spiral out and you go out of control and you try and force things out of the desire to make that back. Or maybe you take a win and you feel so invincible that you start forcing low quality setups onto the market. So I'm convinced traders have experienced both the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala. And really, like I'm going to explain here, a brain that is neither seeking nor avoiding, but is operating from its higher functions, that is a bulletproof trading mindset. That's a bulletproof trading mindset. And I'm going to explain why in a second. But the whole idea of bulletproof trading mindset isn't one that's positive, isn't one that's up or elated or proud all the time. That's a polarity that will surely swing to the other side eventually, which is the negative, the sad, the depressed, the shame. But a bulletproof trading mindset has transcended those polarities. It goes to a higher level of thinking where it's neither trying to seek after winning nor trying to avoid losing. And it's one that's process-based, and it's one that's process thinking. If you think about it, what makes something bulletproof? What makes something resilient? You know, if you're trying to seek after winning all the time, and we all know that nobody can predict the outcome of the next trade, if you're trying to seek after winning all the time, you're seeking after the unattainable. You're seeking after something as a trader that you can't have because you're going to have to experience losing part of the probability model. So as a trader, it's unrealistic to expect to win or be positive all the time. And if you do that, when you get the inevitable loss, you're going to be broken. Your expectations are going to be unmet. You're going to be angry. You're going to be frustrated. That is not a bulletproof mindset. A bulletproof mindset is one that doesn't have expectations on the outcome. It's not even thinking about the outcome. It knows that the outcome is unpredictable. And it knows not to lust or desire after a positive outcome or try and avoid a negative outcome. A bulletproof mindset in the markets is one that's focused on the process. It knows what the trading plan is. It knows what the market's doing at that point in time. And if the market presents an opportunity, it executes. If it doesn't execute. And think about that. That mindset, irrespective of what the outcome is unfazed and unencumbered. So it's bulletproof. It's resilient. And that's what I'm helping you get to. That's the state I'm helping you get to. Because just think about that now. You can put an extra $100,000. You can put an extra $1 million of funding. You put an extra $10 million of funding on that bulletproof mindset. And it doesn't matter what the outcome is because that trader is just focused on the proven processes that irrespective of how much scaling it has behind it, it's unfazed. Whereas if you're a trader constantly trying to seek after winning, trying to seek after the unattainable all the time, then the more and more funding you put on that, then the greater the pain of losing and the greater the elation of winning, which creates problems in and of itself. So those are the two options. You can go outcome-based, which you'll struggle to scale with, or you can go process-based, which when you scale with isn't going to have an effect on your mindset because you're focused purely on the process. I hope that distinction makes sense. Okay. So now the question becomes, how do you become bulletproof in your mindset? So the first is a very well-named tool called the Bulletproof Your Mindset tool. And this whole concept that I was talking about with the expectations is what the Bulletproof Your Mindset tool will help you embody. And what I'm going to do is actually going to bring up the iPad here. And I'm going to run those two scenarios because I think it's very, very important. Now, what the Bulletproof Your Mindset tool will help you do, firstly, what it helps you do, the BPM tool. And by the way, this tool is a completely free tool linked in the description. So make sure you go in there and download that tool. And you have that in front of you while I'm running through it. So pause the video, download it right now, and then bring it up. Now, the first column in that Bulletproof Your Mindset tool is it's helping ask and it's helping bring to surface, what are your expectations on this trade? What are you thinking this trade's going to give you? What do you think the market's going to give you? What do you think the outcome of this trade's going to be? What do you think the benefits you're going to get from that trade, being in that trade, are going to be? Now, any expectations or any benefits on the outcome of the trade, any ideas in your mind that you think this trade is going to be profitable or a win are unrealistic. And let me explain why. Nobody has any control over the individual outcome of a trade. If you're trading euro-dollar, for example, euro-dollar is influenced by millions, if not billions of factors. There are political factors. There are environmental factors. There are political factors. There are factors based on consumerism and every individual's spending habits. So euro-dollar and its price movement is determined by billions of factors that any individual cannot even know what those factors are, nor control those factors or have an idea of what those factors are how they're going to influence price. So therefore, thinking that you can predict the individual outcome of a trade by drawing a few lines on the screen is unrealistic. And anything can move price in a way that doesn't go with your idea, and as a result, that individual outcome is unpredictable. Now, you can predict the collective outcome to a degree. That's what you do through backtesting. You create an edge, certain criteria, and that edge over a large sample space is profitable. But even if you look at your trading edge, you have wins and losses when you do backtesting. So the individual outcome is unpredictable, but the larger sample space is predictable to a degree. So the first column in the Bulletproof Your Mindset tools is helping you bring to surface what those expectations are and what you think the outcome of that trade is going to be. Because if you're trading based on what you think the outcome of that trade is going to be and what you think the market's going to give you, that's unrealistic to expect. And if the market doesn't give you that, you're going to be very disappointed. And those expectations are sometimes strong enough to take you away from and take trades that aren't part of your plan. So the first thing is helping you bring to surface what those expectations are. This is, on a deep level, having awareness and seeing yourself in real time from a third-person perspective, which is what I've observed seven-figure traders do. Then, the second part of this tool is it's helping you ground those expectations. And it's taking you through a questioning process to ensure that you now remind yourself in that moment that it's unrealistic to expect that outcome on that individual trade. And it's grounding these individual outcomes and expectations you've put. And the third question it's asking you is, does this trade align with your trading plan or not? And if it does, you take the trade, but you have to have grounded the expectations first. Because if you don't ground the expectations, the market goes the other way, you're going to be very disappointed. So you write down all your expectations, you ground the expectations, and then if it aligns with your trading plan, you take it. If it doesn't, you don't. And this tool is going to help guide you through that process of removing expectations before the trade and sticking to your trading plan, so that you're ensuring you're building consistent profitability because you're sticking to your edge, and also ensuring you're not going into trades with expectations in the outcome, because the outcome is unpredictable, and any expectations of you thinking this trade's a win are going to lead you over time, over a sample space, being disappointed maybe 50 or 60 or 40% of the time, depending on what your strike rate is. Okay, so this is a very, very valuable tool. It's completely free, and it's what I teach my six-figure traders to master, and those that do very, very well. So this is the first tool that's going to help you literally bulletproof your mindset. And the reason why it's a bulletproof mindset now, like I've mentioned, is because if you have an expectation that this trade's a win, and it has to be a win, and I'm taking it because I think it's going to be a win, and then because of your probability sequence, win, loss, win, loss, 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 it's a loss on that individual trade. Because you've associated a lot of pleasure to the win and that outcome, now by law of contrast in your psychology, you've got a lot of pain because it was actually a loss. Okay? So by transcending the outcome-based thinking, and going to process-based thinking, you avoid this mess altogether. You're not thinking about an outcome. You're thinking about, does this align with my trading plan or not? If it does, I take the trade. Great. I know I've made the right decision after I've placed the trade. I don't need to wait for the outcome of that trade to know if I've made the right choice or not. The second tool is ensuring you have a mechanical trading plan. The more guesswork you put in your trading, the more you leave yourself for options in the moment of taking trades. Therefore, the more information you're going to have to filter through, the more decisions you're going to have to make while trading, and overwhelm your mind. Whereas if you have a very simple mechanical trading plan with a checklist, and you make it very clear of exactly what you're looking for in that moment, and you just trade when the market presents the opportunity, then you're going to keep that amygdala quiet, and you're going to have that prefrontal cortex more activated. And there's no way you're going to have consistent profitability unless you're consistently executing on a trading plan. And there's no way you're going to have consistent profitability unless you're consistently executing your edge. So you need to have a mechanical trading plan to ensure that you have consistency in the way you execute in order to have consistent profitability. And the third action step here is you want to build a daily practice and a routine. You want to get good at getting yourself in the zone as a trader. And for example, if you trade in the morning, this may mean that before you go to bed the night before, you put your phone on airplane mode. You wake up, You don't check your phone. It's still in airplane mode. You focus on prioritizing you. You drink water, 1 liter of, and it's getting very specific, is what I do, 1 liter of filtered water and 1 liter of water with electrolytes, for example. So you get yourself well hydrated. And then if you feel like you need to eat a low carb breakfast or whatever, you do that. You do whatever works for you. I personally don't like to eat in the morning. And then maybe have a small coffee to get yourself a little bit woken up, but not too much. So you're not too much in a state of invincibility. You'll know your body over time and how you react. But you're getting yourself into a state that you know you're going to be trading best from. And then you review your processes, you review your trading plan. You plan by marking up the charts and creating a daily watch list and a daily plan. You then do a deep meditation for 10 minutes and a visualization of you being process-based. And you coming in there and swiftly executing your trades irrespective of the outcome, whether it goes for a win or whether it goes for a loss. And then you go in there, and when the market hits your alerts, because you've set alerts as well, you then go through the Bulletproof Your Mindset tool just before you're about to take a trade. You identify all your expectations. You ground your expectations. You review again, does this align with my trading plan? You have a look at your trading plan checklist. Did it tick everything? If it did, great. I take the trades free of expectations. And you do a visualization exercise of you being accepting of the trade, both hitting your take profit or your stop loss, irrespective. I'm unfazed because it sticks to my trading plan, aligns with my trading plan. And then you know you're truly in process-based thinking, okay? So the third step now is develop, using the 2 tools I mentioned before, develop a daily practice and a routine. And by the way, I have my 6-figure trading plan template in the description, another free tool, another great resource. So make sure you use that as well as the Bulletproof Your Mindset tool. So these are the 2 tools you want to implement, as well as having a daily practice and a daily routine that involves structure, involves organization, involves planning, involves settling your mind and breathing and getting present and meditating, whatever works for you, and not eating too extreme of a diet with a lot of carbs or a lot of fats or too much protein, something that's moderated, something that keeps you balanced, doesn't have too much sugar. Don't be eating too much sugar or dairy or anything like that stimulates you. Don't be drinking too much caffeine that stimulates you too much. You want to be focused, you want to be present, and that's what's going to allow you to see the market clearly and execute when the market presents the opportunity. That's what's going to allow you to have a bulletproof trading mindset. So the benefits of following this protocol, you're going to have less stress and emotional volatility when you're trading because you're not going to have unrealistic expectations. You're going to have increased probability of sticking to your trading plan because you're not going to have expectations that take you away from your trading plan. You're going to have consistency in your results because you're sticking to your trading plan. And you're going to be able to scale to greater amounts of funding because you're not caught in outcome-based thinking. So make sure you follow this little program. Ensure you have a clear mechanical trading plan. Download the link in the description, the 6-figure trading plan if you need it. Utilize the Bulletproof Your Trading Mindset tool before every trade. Download that tool in the description and develop a deep routine and practice that allows you to be consistent in this protocol. Okay? If you found this video useful, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and share it with your trading friends and trading community that you know will get value from it. And thank you for watching to the end. I look forward to seeing you all in the next video.